an update on the farmer situation and the losses that they've been making, whether you're in the tea farming industry or like you've heard, even now the milk industry is suffering. Speaking of industries, Trevor Ombije is going to be talking to Joseph Bonyo. He is our business editor here at Citizen TV. What's the topic? The struggling aviation industry. Trevor. Well,
thanks, Zinzi. And that's the discussion we're getting into right now with Joseph Bonyo, our business editor right here at Citizen TV. Thanks for making time for us, Joseph.
Thanks, Trevor.
Now, KCAA suspended Silverstone Air -8 fleet. Yeah, true. We've seen a plane lose its tire upon takeoff. What is ailing the aviation industry?
I think, Trevor, to begin with, we must say that the Kenyan aviation industry has been on the spotlight.
Yeah.
Safety and security issues in the aviation industry brings that kind of spotlight, because it is always said that all aviation accidents are always fatal. So we don't want to get to a position where we are going to report about these fatalities. And that is why you've seen a lot of limelight on whatever it is that is happening, especially from operators that flying out of Wilson Airport. I think on the Silverstone Air, it could have been that there's always this one, people say that when it rains, it pours.
Yeah.
The incidences have been far too frequent, and that is why KCAA decided to move in and do a safety audit on them. These safety audits happens. Most of the time, they are random. But for Silverstone, it had to be a planned one because there was a lot of public pressure. And I remember speaking to KCAA Director General Captain Kibe, and he was telling me that the public pressure had made them to give in to do another audit. Remember, they announced that audit barely a week after conducting another one. So it was about the public concerns, about the safety of Silverstone Air. That led KAA to do this. And why did they pick on the -8? Silverstone operates about 7 of them. And this is composed of about half of their fleet. So when 2 of them have been found to have issues, then it is only important that we assess everything. So that is why KCAA decided to ground the 7 for 7 days, but said that they could continue operating. I think they operated the Fokker 50s and Fokker 28s. So they were told that you can go ahead and operate the rest. But Silverstone, in their own wisdom, decided that why don't we ground all our fleet so that this audit can be done on all of them. By the time we resume operations, then we'll be having that clarity. We'll be having that green light that our aircrafts are safe and they can now...
But isn't that where the concern is, Bonyo? Because Silverstone has been in operation since 2017. KCAA only realizes this now after public pressure and after the incident. Who's sleeping on the job here?
We can't really say that somebody's sleeping on the job because, again, some of these audits are random. And carriers are expected to do regular safety audits, regular maintenance, because an aircraft will always have a safety manual and maintenance procedures from the manufacturers. So it stayed after how many miles you are expected to do this maintenance and all that. So aircrafts operating in Kenya, they all do that. And I want to believe KCAA is always very firm on this. But I think for Silverstone Air, one thing that has happened is that they've had a very rapid expansion. Remember, until recently when they cancelled about 4 other destinations, they're doing about 11 destinations in Kenya. If you go to Wilson today, if you take a cab to Wilson today, the automatic question the cab driver will always ask you, are you using Silverstone Air? It is that expansion that has given them, they've become a top-of-mind budget carrier. So everybody who flies out of Wilson, it's automatically believed that you're flying Silverstone. And again, they've done a lot of marketing, they've done a lot of brand presence on social media, so they've been on everybody's lips. So when such a concern arises, then you expect a similar heavy condemnation, a similar heavy discussion around it to take place.
So the veracity is the same when the criticism and also applause.
Exactly.
But now KCAA also just realized the state of Wilson Airport runway, that it needs urgent attention. What is the standard procedure to maintain
I think that also gives us a glimpse of what's happening between KCAA, which is the regulator, and Kenya Airports Authority, who are the managers of our airports. Kenya Airports Authority says that they've set aside about 350 million shillings to overhaul the runways at Wilson. Wilson has, I think, about 3 runways. So over time, they've been trying to do patchworks. But because we're in a rainy season, you do a patchwork at night, early morning it rains, then the aircraft that operate out of there. Mark you, Wilson Airport is ranked as one of the busiest airports in the world. Sometimes in 2-1,
So it should have more attention then.
Yes, but you see, the weight of these aircrafts cumulatively now has the effect on it, because if there's a takeoff, let's say every 10 minutes, that's a very busy airport. So if you do a patchwork, yes, on a runway at night, then by as early as 6:30 in the morning, flights taking off, it is raining, and again, the quality of the works that we do around this side of town is never the best. So that is why KCA was advising that probably right now we need carriers with vessels above 7 tons to start using Terminal D2 at the JKIA so that we can only have the light ones operate at Wilson as we do the repairs of the runway. So the state of the runway is not the best. Works are said to be done. KAA says they've set up finances for it, and we only hope that they will do a good job.
Yeah, and let's talk about KQ, our national carrier. How can a national carrier be struggling? What is going on there? How do they change their fortunes now?
The recent passage of the report, the adoption of the report by the National Assembly Transport Committee, that the aviation industry should be nationalized so that we have Kenya Airways back to the ambits of the national government under the Ministry of Transport, was a welcome move. This was expected to revitalize it. However, this will take some time. As currently set up, Kenya Airways is a publicly quoted company. This means that its shares are trading at the Nairobi Securities Exchange. So any decision that is supposed to be made then must be subjected to shareholders' approval. So that we might call it a bureaucracy because it takes time. You must call for an annual general meeting. It is discussed. People vote for it. Mark you, the government of Kenya is the largest shareholder currently. But still, it is subjected to the rules of the Nairobi Securities Exchange and under the Capital Markets Authority. So nationalizing Kenya Airways will be the solution in the interim, because then the rate at which decisions are made, the government can decide to put in money, the government can borrow money and revitalize its operation. Kenya Airways is struggling with a very huge debt. Debt accumulated over the years. And with this, I don't think you can find somebody right now that will pump in the kind of money that it needs to revive its operations. Speaking
of pumping in money, Michael Joseph was speaking to Jeff Koinange yesterday, and he said they'll need about 45 billion to revive the KQ carrier, the national carrier. Is that practical? Is that feasible? Where will the money come from?
My namesake is very ambitious. In this economy, in the current structures, for the government to give them that 45 billion Kenya shillings, I mean,
almost a tall order.
It is a tall order, because look at now, the national government is struggling to pay its own dues. Then here comes an operator that you think is a national asset, and you still have to pump in 45 billion shillings. I mean, we guaranteed them about 87 billion shillings. It's about 2 or 3 years ago. They're still struggling to pay that. Then we pump in another 45 billion shillings. That is being too ambitious. They are the piecemeal solutions that Kenya Airways can be treated to. But I think asking for 45 billion shillings at a go is a tall order, and if you ask me, could be a daydream.
The irony of this is that KQ is now planning to hire foreign pilots for the Boeing 737. CALPA, which is Kenya Airlines Pilots Association, is against that move by far. Will this boost their fortunes in any way?
The issue around hiring expert pilots for Kenya Airways has always been a thorny one. I remember back in the day, there was a talk that they were going to hire foreign pilots, and actually, CALPA organized a strike, and it was a very, very bad scenario. The current situation is that CALPA is saying that we are not against hiring these expert pilots, but hire them for the smaller Embraers. What you do is that promote us, those who are already on the Embraers and have earned enough hours that is needed for the bigger vessels, the 737s, the 787s, the Dreamliners. Promote us to captains so that we can able to pilot those ones. Then bring these guys and let them start with the smaller one, as opposed to overlooking us and getting expatriates to do the bigger vessels. It's a dream for every pilot to always pilot the bigger ones. So they say, we have the capacity, we have the skills, we have the hours. Why don't you promote us to the bigger ones, then bring in these guys so that they start from the smaller ones, the Embraers, then they graduate. That is, if they will still stick with us. So I want to believe the pilots have a very valid reasons for this, because again, we need to exhaust internally before we go elsewhere.
Yeah.
I'm always a firm believer in let us look at what we have internally before we go out there to look for that kind of skills.
Yeah.
These skills are available, so let us get them, but they come and join at what we call the entry level. Then they grow the ranks, just like the local pilots are struggling to grow the ranks.
So as we wind up, Bonyo, is this a management problem? Because Kalpa's CEO Murithi Nyaga says that, yes, they should come in through the Embraer and then move to the Boeing 737 and then the Boeing 787, which is the Dreamliner, in the line of the promotions and the sequence that is supposed to be there. Is this a management failure when you want to bring in foreign support? And yet, the main concern is that the Embraers themselves lack pilots, which is also another place where revenue is being lost.
The issue here, Trevor, is about salaries. You remember when Sebastian Mikosz and the management team of Kenya Airways appeared before the Transport Committee sometime this year. One of the issues they said was that Kenyan pilots, especially those ones hired by Kenya Airways, are paid highly, but they don't work the maximum hours that is expected. So Kenya Airways probably believes that if we get experts, we will then pay them a salary that is relatively easy and affordable for us, as opposed to promoting these guys, because based on the salary they earn currently, if we promote them, we will give them salary increment. And to that, with a struggling airline, might be too stretched. But so I think there's still room for negotiations. These guys can have a discussion and get a compromise so that we find a balance. How do we promote people? And how do we bring in the experts to beef up? Because Kenya Airways challenges in terms of delays today is largely caused by the lack of pilots and crew members. Okay,
you had mentioned earlier on that they need to change their strategy. What do they need to change? Should they make more advert? What happens now?
The strategy here, and I like what Mikosz is doing, and as much as he's exiting, the issue of him saying that we need to maximize on the routes, that if a vessel is down, if an aircraft is parked, then it's not making any money for us. So let's get all our aircrafts up in the skies flying. I think that is one of the best strategies. Keep these aircrafts making money for you. And with that, then you are able to maximize on them. Because remember, most of these aircrafts are still being serviced. The loans are being serviced. So if you have them out there, up in the skies operating, then they're able to earn you some money and also repay themselves. So I think that is a brilliant strategy. What just needs to be done is that they must win the goodwill of, one, their crew members. KQ today suffers a lot of ill will from their crew members. They believe that the management does not have their interest at heart. So that is what they need, because those are their strongest and foremost stakeholders, the crew members. If you get the crew members on your side, then everything else will fall in place. Finances will come, the government will arrange.
All right. Thanks for making time for us. Joseph Bonyo, business editor, Citizen TV here, and just talking about the aviation industry and the issues that are bedeviling the aviation industry. There, we'll definitely keep an eye and see if there are any improvements from that region. Next, we're taking a short break here on Daybreak. When we come back, it's time for breakfast tips with Chef Ali. Bonyo, do you want to have something on the other side?
An African will never miss an opportunity for breakfast. Most welcome.
See you in a bit.
Thank you.